As the Middle East wavers on the brink, the United States finds itself at the heart of a rapidly escalating crisis. In the wake of Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, Iran unleashed a barrage of missiles and drones toward Israel. American officials confirmed that the United States military intervened, intercepting many of these threats with advanced air defense systems and repositioned assets, while also evacuating military families from regional bases as a precaution. Yet this overt military support has exposed sharp divisions at home. President Donald Trump, once the champion of ending endless wars and negotiating peace with Iran, now faces mounting pressure to stand firmly by Israel. The Republican Party is split between hardline interventionists and the isolationist MAGA base, each pulling the administration into different directions. Can America reconcile its desire for peace with its strategic alliances and domestic discord? In depth. Qnews has reported that Israel asked the Trump administration over the past 48 hours to join the war with Iran in order to eliminate its nuclear program, according to two Israeli officials. Israel lacks the bunker buster bombs and large bomber aircrafts needed to destroy. Israel wants to destroy Iran's Fordow uranium enrichment site, but Tel Aviv lacks the necessary ammunition to strike its deep underground, which the United States has. The Trump administration has so far distanced itself from Israel's operation, urging that directly attacking Iran would drag the United States into war, according to Axios. Though an Israeli official claimed Trump suggested he might join the operation, the White House has publicly denied any such commitment. A senior U.S. official told Axios that Washington is still pushing for a peaceful resolution, insisting that Iran must abandon its nuclear ambitions to achieve lasting peace.
Tensions in the Middle East are escalating after Israeli strikes on Iranian targets triggered a massive retaliation. Iran launched hundreds of missiles and drones, most of which were intercepted with American help. US President Donald Trump said after a call with Russian President Vladimir Putin that the war between Israel and Iran needs to end. Trump is walking a tightrope as he said that he was fully aware of Israel's plan to launch massive airstrikes against Iran, while continuing to deny direct involvement, and he insists that diplomacy is still possible. Nuclear talks scheduled in Oman were abruptly cancelled after Iran's foreign ministry accused Washington of backing Israel's aggression. U.S. officials say they remain committed to diplomacy, but only if Iran steps back. Meanwhile, Israel has requested American participation in striking Iran to eliminate its nuclear program. Israeli officials say their attack cannot succeed in destroying the deep underground Iran's Fordow uranium enrichment site without U.S. assistance. Inside Washington, Republicans cheer Israel's strikes, calling them necessary. Democrats, however, say Netanyahu sabotaged diplomacy and endangered U.S. troops. Trump's challenge is also deepened by the crisis at home, where he deployed federal troops on U.S. streets to contain the growing protests, prompting accusations of authoritarianism. As the conflict between Israel and Iran escalates, the world watches closely, and the vague American stance is a key determinant of the outcomes.
And for more analysis on the escalating situation between Iran and Israel, we are joined from Cairo by Amani Sulaiman, Director of Mediterranean Studies Institute, Alexandria University. A very warm welcome. And from New York by David K. Johnston, Professor at Rochester Institute of Technology. Their insights will help us to unravel the complexities of America's shifting stance. Dr. Sulaiman, a very good day and a very warm welcome to both of you in depth. How do you see, Dr. Sulaiman, significant was the United States military role in intercepting Iranian missiles targeting Israel? And I'll ask you later. Dr. Sulaiman, how significant was the United States military's role in intercepting Iranian missiles targeting Israel?
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. Well, there are no official reports about the size or the quantity or the timing of these intercepted operations, but what we know for sure now and what was announced by the U.S. administration that it took place in intercepting missiles that were targeting Israel. And we would assume that maybe these missiles were more dangerous than the other because Iran showered Israel with hundreds of missiles of different kinds, up to hypersonic ones. So to say that the U.S. intervened in some of these operations to intercept missiles, it means that they were either very grave and would have caused a lot of damage, or they were targeting very crucial Israeli objectives. Now, the U.S. is trying to say that it's out of the game in order to protect its military bases in the Gulf near Tehran that can be targeted by the Iranians. As you said in the introduction, they are eviicting many of the families of the troops in Bahrain and elsewhere. And the interception for sure has happened through the
Dr. Amini, they're not out of the game. The tragic story is that they are out of the game, but they don't want to be out of the game. They said that they're with Israel.
This is the same U.S. strategy all the way. They claim that they are the peace broker, and then they say we support Israel, and at the same time they say that they want peace, but they are supporting and occupying a force. So this is not new. This is how the U.S. and not just this administration. This is how the U.S. has been handling the Arab-Israeli conflict for decades, announcing something and doing the other thing.
Okay, Professor Justin, welcome. And President Trump has long promised to end wars and achieve peace with Iran and be a peacemaker in the region or globally, sir. How does his current stance align with those promises that are never achieved, or do you see them achieved from your own perspective and narrative, sir?
Well, as someone who has known and covered Donald for almost 40 years, it's always important to keep in mind that what Donald says and reality are often occasionally and often unintentionally connected. He doesn't have any deep, sophisticated knowledge of what's going on here. And as your other guest said, and I agree with her, the U.S. has a consistent pattern of saying we want peace and then siding with Israel, whether Israel is being defensive or the aggressor, in this case, trying
Professor
to justify.
K, can I please interrupt you in this context and ask you that this time or this situation or this conflict, which of course we until today we don't know the aftermath of Israeli strikes on Iran, and of course Iran retaliating, and where we're gonna go and end, and this is an unprecedented conflict. Why is it very loud and out that, or out and loud that the stance of the United States, or how do you read it, sir, is very fragile at this point, and it's very well read. How do you read it?
Well, there is zero chance that the Trump administration will do anything to help the government in Tehran. That's just not going to happen. And there's no reason to think that they will do anything to rein in the Netanyahu government. And remember, Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to hold on to a coalition that makes very little sense even within Israeli politics, and to address the very serious corruption charges against him. So he's going to take actions that will distract and that will help him hold on to power. That's underlying all of this. But the Trump administration is never going to act in any way that would be helpful in the least to the Iranian regime.
Is the U.S. administration, sir, or Donald Trump caught between denial and admission in Middle East crisis?
Can you repeat the question? I'm not sure I quite grasped the nub of it.
Do you think, sir, that the United States is in denial at this point?
Oh, yes. I mean, the U.S. is doing what it's consistently done for the last 71 years, since Mossadegh was overthrown by the U.S. government in Iran. And the position in the U.S. is going to be consistently what will help Israel with very few limits on it. And the fact that Israel would not have carried out this attack without U.S. intelligence, either in real time or material gathered over a long period of time, both human intelligence and signals intelligence. And the U.S. has now acknowledged that in terms of defending against Iranian rockets, the U.S. is being helpful. You don't hear the U.S. being one bit helpful to the other side. There's no effort here to create a peace. Donald Trump would have no idea how to try and find some path to peace between Iran and Israel because he doesn't know anything.
Sir, do you think there's going to be any path of peace, especially considering that today was the 6th round of negotiation between Iran and between Israel, which took place, sir, to end, and the United States to end this uranium or the nuclear facilities that were bothering Donald Trump, and it's not taking place, and Tehran today ruled out that any talks will take place?
Yeah.
And do you think there's an escalation or de-escalation that's going to be taking place?
At some point down the road, you will see parties get together and talk, often indirectly through others, Egypt being a potential broker. But the underlying core problem here, the enmity between Israel and Iran, it's going to continue long after my life runs out.
Okay,
it's
Dr. Sulaiman.
Nothing on the scene to make it change.
Okay, Dr. Sulaiman, Trump told Putin that Israel-Iran war needs to end, while also defending Israel's right to act. What does Trump's simultaneous endorsement of Israeli aggression and calls for de-escalation say about his diplomatic posture in this crisis exactly?
It says that he hasn't any, and he doesn't, as your esteemed guest said, he doesn't have any sophistication or real estimation of what's going on in the Middle East, and that how it would escalate and would drag more and more states to be in turmoil. The embarrassment happening to many Arab regimes and Islamic regimes now that Iran is being hit and Gaza is being hit for 2 years, and you're not doing anything, is very dangerous. And he really doesn't know the kind of internal pressure happening on all these leaders. This is why you find the crown prince of Saudi Arabia trying to say we're siding with our Iranian brothers, because it looks very bad that Trump is using the U.S. Facilities and bases in the region, and he's just been in the Middle East taking money from all these countries, and now he's supporting Israel and supporting its aggression against Iran. He's not really understanding what kind of turmoil this is causing, and he doesn't have enough gut to tell the Israelis to stop.
Doctor, where does his credibility stand today, U.S. President Donald Trump, as we talk in this conflict specifically?
And people thought that coming to the Middle East in his very well-publicized journey would have changed something. We thought that by the time he was leaving the Middle East, he will try to put pressure on Netanyahu to ease down on the Palestinians, to stop the Israeli aggression. But he's just following the Netanyahu domestic plan, couple of days ago, we were talking about dismantling the Knesset. Now, of course, no one can talk about anything but the war was with Iran. And what kind of credibility would Trump have, even with the Israelis, while he's supporting someone who is sacrificing his own country and other countries in order to stay in power? All
Wait, is
this is
your
happening
answer,
before him.
doctor, yes or no?
Yes, yes or no? Yes, he doesn't have any credibility.
Yes, he doesn't
There is
have
no
any credibility.
credibility to
Professor Justin, Israel reportedly requested U.S. participation to bomb Iran's Fordo nuclear site. How dangerous is this request for regional security, and what might be the consequences if Trump were to comply?
Well, that would be an extreme escalation. I don't think you're going to see U.S. military bombers or missiles used against Iran. And similarly, the attacks by Israel are not going to stop Iran's nuclear program. The Iranians have proven very smart at separating into many locations what they're doing to build a nuclear weapon and burying it deep in the ground. So this is, well, it's deadly. This is more theater than substance.
Okay, sir, 3 days into the escalation, are we looking at possible full-out war between them, or is there going to be any de-escalation in the near future?
You will see this tit for tat go on for a while, and then they will back off. But Israel has made it very clear that they want to stop Iran's nuclear program. Trump, in his first administration, of course, ended the agreement that had brought outside observers and control over the efforts of Iran to develop a nuclear weapon. And of course, Israel never acknowledges that it is a nuclear power. But this will go on back and forth for a while. You're not going to see a full-blown war. Israel doesn't have the capacity to invade Iran and remove the existing regime.
Dr. Suleiman, what message does this intervention send to Iran and the broader region at this point?
Well, it says that the Americans just want what they want. It's not a negotiation. The message to Iran now is that we want to dictate to what to do, what kind of deal to accept without negotiations, because we have heard Trump talking the past few weeks about a deal. A deal means concessions and compromisement from both sides. Now he's talking that Iran should take what we offer, and that's it. The message being sent now is that Iran has to kneel down and accept what is being dictated to it. And I don't think that the Iranians, with all the losses that has happened to them in the personnel or the facilities, would accept such an American deal now. They don't have anything more to lose. Why would they accept such a deal?
Professor Johnston, what pressures is Trump facing from both the Republicans and the MAGA aligned base regarding Middle East policy, sir?
Well, there's clearly a sharp division among Republicans, and Trump has managed so far for the last 10 years to maintain almost absolutely perfect discipline among Republicans to abandon their principles and their oaths to the U.S. Constitution to support him. But this is one of several issues that are increasing the fissures within the party. The overall Republican Party position is Israel good, Iran bad. But within that, you are seeing some senators with influence in particular saying we shouldn't get involved in this whatsoever. We should not be helping Israel with intelligence, both human intelligence and signals intelligence.
Professor Johnston, do you think that America is going to intervene directly?
No, you're not going to see U.S. military assets used. Intelligence assets, absolutely. Diplomatic assets, but not military assets. So that's not going to happen, and that would really split the nature of the Republican support for Trump on Capitol Hill if that were to happen.
Why, sir? Why is it going to be an impact on the Republicans from your perspective?
Well, because the Republican support for Donald is based on fear that they will get voted out in a primary election. That's where you run for your party's nomination. And many Americans have no interest in further entanglements in the Middle East. This is a very unpopular issue with many in the U.S. That's why we have such a strong isolationist movement among the MAGA crowd that support Trump. And of course, the one thing about Donald is because he doesn't know anything, he is appallingly ignorant about the world. You do have to worry about who's the last person who spoke to Donald and flattered him, because I can tell you from many, many negotiations with Donald that if you know how to flatter him, you can manipulate him a lot. But he has run for office and argued, I'm not going to get us involved in any wars. So to be directly involved in this conflict with military assets, that would undermine Trump very seriously with his own base.
Dr. Suleiman, what are the risks of further escalation if the United States continues to support Israel militarily?
I agree with your esteemed guest that there will be a larger involvement of the U.S. militarily in the incidents happening now. What will happen is that they will go on supporting them with information, with intelligence, but no more. I don't see the U.S. involving any more or any deeper in this conflict. And I think that after a couple of days, there will be a stop to the exchange of these missiles that we have been seeing for 3 nights. I don't think it will go on more than 1 week.
Okay, Professor Johnston, has Trump's support for Israel in this crisis specifically undermined his diplomatic credibility with Iran?
Well, I'm not sure that Donald has any diplomatic credibility with Iran. I mean, he's spoken incredibly.
Sir, I didn't hear well. What did you say again?
I'm not sure Donald has any credibility with the regime in Iran. He has spoken incredibly harshly about the government there and made clear he thinks it's an illegitimate government. And the Iranians would have no reason to, Donald likes to say, oh, these countries, they're coming to me, they're leaders, and they're saying, thank you, sir, thank you for showing us what we should do. The chances of Iran doing that are -0 and -0. It's just never going to happen. So he doesn't have any credibility with them whatsoever. And considering the everything the U.S. has done since overthrowing Mossadegh in 1954, this is just a continuation of the U.S. government totally mismanaging its relationship with the government in Iran. And after all, Iran is the most sophisticated country culturally, economically, academically in the Middle East, and yet we treat it like it's a pariah state. That's not wise, but there's no way that this administration is going to move off that position.
Professor Johnston, many analysts say that Israel decided to move on with this airstrike, of course, towards Iran, knowing that a deal is very imminent to reach. Is that true, sir?
Well, we don't know if it's very imminent. I mean, there are various efforts trying to be reached with the Iranians.
At least there was a 6th round, sir, and they were moving on, and they were moving on in a good direction. It was not a direction that was no, we're not gonna stop nuclear facilities, or yes, we're gonna stop nuclear facilities. There were talks going on.
Yeah, I was focusing on the word imminent. But I don't see any prospect that Iran is going to give up on its nuclear ambitions. That would make no sense from their perspective. That would make no sense whatsoever. And the Israelis, for the damage that they did.
Why should they, sir, give up on their nuclear facilities?
I can't imagine any reason for Tehran to do so. Why would they do so? That doesn't make any sense for them to do so.
Exactly.
And recognize that the attack by Israel didn't really damage the Iranian operations to develop nuclear weapons. That's why I said this is more theory than substance.
Okay, that was Emeni Suleiman, Director of Mediterranean Studies Institute, Alexandria University, and Dr. David K. Johnston, Professor at Worcester Institute of Technology. Thank you very much for your valuable, informative knowledge and for your insights. I really very much appreciate your existence in our episode today. This concludes today's episode of In Depth. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more updates on Qnews, and we'll be covering every single, of course, update minute by minute here on Qnews. Stay tuned.